Okay, so I thought we would just start with ideas is kind of a big thing, right? It's like this big, slightly ambiguous term. So I thought we would make it a little bit more real and a little bit more relevant. And so the first question I have for you is, what does having ideas at work look like for you? I think it very much depends on the job you do, perhaps depends on the company you're in. So take that rather large question and let me know your thoughts in chat. What does having ideas at work look like for you? Maybe you work in Melissa talking rapidly at people till they get it. Yeah, I don't think I'm very good. I think I'm just enthusiastic. I don't know if it's a good idea. I just sell it with a lot of enthusiasm. Throwing out suggestions or questions to consider options. Thanks, B. Sometimes thinking something different to others. Oh, I love that, Anya. So sometimes an idea is just like an alternative point of view. If that's your idea, what if we? Testing and learning. Thank you for getting specific. New educational programs. Excited to hear about that. Process improvement. Yeah. So everything from kind of new educational programs to actually maybe like small tweaks to things that we're doing so that we can do our work better. A bit scary and exciting. I always find it interesting, Kelly, that in our body, that when you are scared and when you're excited, it releases the same chemicals. So it kind of has the same impact on you. Kind of that the feeling inside you is the same whether you're fearful or excited. Just random knowledge, everyone. Process changes, kind of creative and hear people's feedback. It's part of why I want to kind of give us the chance to feedback on an idea today, is because I think selling ideas at work, which is sort of what we're talking about here, I think involving people in the process is a really important part of it. Because if I just throw my ideas out to you all day at work, here's an idea, and I haven't got your buy-in, or you haven't felt any sense of input into those ideas, then sort of people are less committed to them, like they don't feel like they're kind of part of it. It's a bit like those it's a bit like, you know those tennis ball machines. I never played tennis, everyone, so I'm saying this without a lot of knowledge, but you know those machines that like shoot the ball out, you know those ones. I think if you don't allow people to catch the ball, they don't feel like they're playing the game. That's the kind of analogy I'm going with. So we want people to sort of be able to catch an idea and kind of maybe throw it back to you occasionally. And ideas look like post-it notes. I love that. You just panicked me, Cara. I think I've come out without post-it notes today. That's a very unlike me thing to do. Bouncing things with others. Okay, brilliant. Lots of things. Okay, so now we've kind of got in our mind what our ideas look like to us. At work, where are you most likely to share your ideas? So is it in just like random conversations? Is it like a team meeting? Do you have particular like review meetings? Do you have like idea meetings? So you and your ideas at work, where are they where are they most likely to kind of come out? In a one-to-one. Brilliant, Emmy. So maybe conversations, somewhere you feel safe. That's interesting, Claire. So feeling like there has to be a sense of safety for you to feel comfortable sharing your ideas. Kat, building on that, actually testing it with someone I trust. It's interesting, isn't it? Sharing our ideas, do they make us feel a bit vulnerable sometimes? Like, because we're worried other people might think it's a bad idea. Coming on to that in a minute. One-to-ones, focused topic meetings. Yeah, I think mine would be either WhatsApp, but probably between Sarah and Mo, like what if we generally on WhatsApp, Sarah and I would do that back with each other, or I think more in topic focus meetings. So Vivi and our team will often talk together and we kind of bounce off each other quite a lot and we'll generate ideas. So Vivi and I work on all the stuff we see on social, for example, and I think I generate ideas more in when I'm sort of bouncing off somebody, like a bounce and build. That's probably my best like those sort of meetings and topic specifics best for me. Stand-ups, conversation with colleagues in there. So yours is more like in the flow of a conversation. Oh, I like that, Jen, on a lunchtime walk after a meeting. The stuff around walking is always really interesting with creativity, that actually walking unlocks a different part of our brain. So actually, if you feel like you're probably not generating many ideas at the moment, going for a walk is probably a good way to start to release them. Maybe a walk and talk where you can bounce ideas off each other. Maybe. One-to-ones, super small team, so team meetings 3 people, but we're a small team too. We have lots of very small meetings. Okay, so managers, one-to-ones, meetings. One more question for you, everybody. What do you think gets in the way of sharing your ideas with impact at the moment? So when I say ideas with impact, I mean like they're clear, they're confident, and they feel credible for people. That's what I mean about, like, I feel like if someone has like caught that ball and caught that idea, it's because it's been clearly communicated, confidently, like shared, and it's kind of like a credible idea. People are like, oh yeah, there's something in that. What is getting in the way of that for you right now? We talked a little bit about vulnerability, didn't we? Prioritizing. Okay, a bit of confidence in the ideas, fear of being rejected. It's interesting, isn't it? You know, not that I'm trying to always talk about gremlins, everybody, but though there is a wait list. If you didn't get your book on gremlins, there is a wait list for Christmas. We can always put that in the link. But it's interesting that are gremlins getting in the way of you sharing your ideas? As I think ideas is one of the ways that we uniquely contribute our value at work. Like your ideas are based on, you know, the dots that your brain has connected, and we all do that in slightly different ways. Because we're all collecting different dots, but also because, you know, our brains are very unique. And so if your gremlin is getting in the way of you sharing your ideas at work, it's reducing kind of your individual impact, you know, like the uniqueness that you add. Those naughty gremlins. Waffle too much and not concise, so maybe the clarity bit. Yeah, it might be interesting just kind of thinking about those filters of clarity, confidence, and credibility. Do we feel like we've got that with which is the thing that might be kind of holding us back the most? And obviously all those things are very practicable. That's the good news, really. Like clarity, we can practice becoming more clear. Confidence, we can case the gremlins, and credibility, we can kind of build an idea that might kind of feel a bit more weighty for people, which is what we're going to talk about now. How do we kind of add weight to an idea so that people want to hear it and want to work with it? Okay, so what I thought I'd do now, I mean, this is really random, everyone. I thought I'm just going to share an idea with you. Share an idea I've had. I'm not really looking for, do we think this is a good idea or a bad idea? It's just an idea. But I'm going to share it. And then we are going to use 3 different things that we talked about in the podcast episode to kind of critique the idea and think, well, how could we I'd maybe add more credibility to the idea, or could I communicate it more clearly, or could I deliver it with more confidence? Whatever we think. I just kind of want to use the idea and put myself as I'll put myself as a bit of a sacrifice for your feedback right now, so that we can see how we can make this as practical as possible. So here is my idea, everybody. World Work Book Day. Dun, 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 dun. There is a concept which you are probably familiar with, particularly if you have children, called World Book Day. It is today. Some of you may have sent your children out into school dressed as many things today. And the purpose of World Book Day is to make sure every child has a book and to inspire a love of reading that continues into life. I propose that we start to have World Workbook Day, where we empower people to read to help them to be more resilient at work. I believe if you read at work about your development, you are more resilient in your role and you will learn much more because of it. And I think if we can encourage people to read, we ensure people are more resilient. And if we share what we are reading, we inspire other people to do it too. So I am proposing my idea that we do a campaign. Maybe it's just 1 year we do this to shine a spotlight on it, and it is World Workbook Day. You share the book that has helped you succeed most at work to inspire other people to read and become more resilient in their roles. There we go. Yes, that is a picture of me in my garden this morning, holding a book, wearing high-heeled boots that got stuck in the grass. That's factual. That doesn't help me sell the idea, but I'm just sharing the truth. Okay, so there we go. What we are now going to do is deconstruct that idea a little bit, critique it, build it a bit better using the principles that we talked about in the podcast. So principle number 1 was all about creating connection. So if you want to sell an idea so that it sticks, like sharing it at work in a way that people can get involved in, we talked about 3 things on the podcast that can help you to do that. The first is create a shared experience. So, remember that book that you read that changed your life, or whatever it is, create a shared experience. The second is share that idea with emotion that people can connect with, whether that is excitement, or maybe it could be like a moment of sadness or something like that, but kind of use emotion to convey the power of that idea. And the third one is empathy, trigger a bit of empathy. So maybe a challenge that people have gone through, something that they can relate to, something that's difficult for you that they can connect with. So experience, emotion, empathy, all ways that we can create a bit of connection. So in the context of World Workbook Day that I talked to you about, what do you think I did well? How could we build it better with either experience, emotion, or empathy? What do you think? How could we build that idea better? I imagine I was selling that to you as a concept at work that I thought we should all get behind this campaign for World Workbook Day. What did I do well? What do you think in terms of creating connection with you and that idea? Okay, so maybe a bit of experience. Lots of people who've read could talk about a scenario whereas a book has helped to fix. I said someone's there. You used emotion, but not so much empathy. Yeah, Claudia. I could have said, think about a time in your career where you felt really stuck in a situation, and how does something that you read help you to go through that? And I could have talked about when I became a first-time manager and I didn't know what I was doing, and I read so many books with so many tools and it helped me to feel more confident that actually management was a skill I could learn, and without those books I probably wouldn't have been able to do it. And now being a manager is one of the things that I most love in my career. I could have told that, and maybe that story might have created a bit more connection. Someone said, can you steal it? Yes. You're welcome to steal this. Take people back to their experience of World Book Day as children, as a parent. Yeah, Fee, maybe we could have said, oh, remember how excited your children get thinking about this and how this is sort of a memorable day in the year for them. What if this could be a memorable day for us at work? Lovely idea. Yeah, when you're right, Melissa. I didn't add an experience element. When could have definitely connected on that a bit more. Ask someone if they've ever recommended a work-related book to someone. That's a really nice idea. Lucy, get people thinking about, oh, what is a book I've recommended? So we can realise we're sort of doing this on a one-to-one basis, but what would it look like if we scaled that recommendation up? Book quotes, brilliant. Okay, so hopefully you kind of get this idea. I think it's worth, if you've got an idea, maybe just thinking about, in terms of the people that I'm talking to, I don't think you have to do all of this. I think it could be really hard if you're trying to do all of this at once, but maybe just thinking about in relation to the people that I'm talking to, what is likely to be the best way to connect with them. I think, like me talking to you, I think I could have used any of those things. I could have used emotion, I could have used empathy, I could have used experience, because I think we are a community of like-minded learners. So I think we've probably got shared experience. I think we kind of, you care about learning and development, else you wouldn't be here. And hopefully you're kind of, hopefully emotion connects us, I think, a little bit together in this community. All right, next one. So bringing it to life. So when you are sharing an idea with people, you can just, you can say it with a story. But we think that if there are ways that you can kind of visualize that idea for people, it feels a bit more real. It feels a bit more tangible. I talked about share it with clarity, confidence, and credibility. I think there is something in creating a visual of an idea that gives it a bit more weight. Suddenly I can connect to it a bit more. I'm like, oh, I see what you're saying, basically. And so there are a couple of things you could do. You could do a prototype. So before, when I've been sharing ideas, I've done lots of innovation roles, and I love maybe with apps, I've kind of mocked up an app and I'll kind of stuck it on a phone. They're my children. To just make it a bit more real. What would this look like? The other thing that you can do, create pictures and visualize it. So I tried to, me dressing up as a book, random, and I took, you can see here, I kind of don't know how effective it was, but I took a real World Book Day kind of bit of marketing, and I turned it into, instead of I'm a reader, I'm a learner, and World Workbook Day. So I tried to kind of visualize, perhaps this is a doable thing. So what do you think? What do you think worked? What do you think could have been better? If you were bringing that idea to life, what do you think would have made it even better? We're trying to prototype it, we're trying to visualize it. World Workbook Day, how could we have how could I have done that a bit better? How could I have brought it to life for you a bit more? By prototyping or visualizing. What do you think, everybody? I realise I'm challenging you, but I'm thinking if we think about this, it's much more likely to stick in our brains. A few book covers, that's a nice idea, Sally. Emphasising the difference between the reader and the learner. Yeah, so maybe how reading helps you to learn at work. Use a success story. Yeah, maybe I could have visualized somebody whose reading has made them resilient in their role. That's nice. We even book clubs, which are oh yeah, actually that's a nice thing. How to connect to book clubs. I feel like people can understand book clubs. Suggest how suggest how companies and organizations could do it in the workplace. So that's almost like one stage further than the idea, isn't it, Sarah? Here, the idea is World Workbook Day. This is what it could look like in your organization. Like just taking that idea one bit further. I think that's a really interesting way of thinking about it. Examples of books, quotes from the books, offer a lunch and learn. You had a random idea yesterday, Claire. This is the thing about random ideas. A random idea about breaking a Guinness World Record for the biggest lunch and learn. You know, like I was like, could we do in like the Squiggly community? Could we do the world's biggest lunch and learn? I was like, could that like really inspire people to learn at work? Anyway, it was a random idea. But then I was thinking, then I was like critiquing my idea. Then I was thinking, yeah, but international time zones, like when would you do this in the day so that everyone could have lunch? So I started to talk myself out of it, but I do quite like the idea of breaking a world record for learning at work. If you've got any ideas on that, send them my way. We can put it through this filter. Use it to help launch it. Quote from the books resonated. Examples of books. Brilliant. Okay. So I think ways that you can visualize it is the important thing here. When I have talked through ideas before, I used to have some jobs that were really ideasy, like actually like the currency of success in those jobs was ideas. I used to work in quite a few innovation jobs. And one of the things with prototyping, sometimes I think the idea of prototyping can feel a bit high pressured, like it's got to, you've got to create a website, you've got to, like I said, you've got to create an app on a phone thing. What I have done before with prototyping is literally on a piece of paper, I've sort of sketched out the idea. And in the moment, it's really helped the conversation. Like literally I've sort of drawn, oh, it might look a bit like this. I am no artist, as you will have seen regularly on PodPlus. But in the moment, that's really helped the conversation to the extent that other people have maybe grabbed a pen and gone, oh, what if it was like, what if we did it like this? I have looked back at the drawings a couple of days afterwards and realized they make absolutely no sense. But in the moment, there is something about kind of creating something a bit tangible, like just getting this idea out of your head in a way that people can see it. So don't put the pressure on that a prototype has to be perfect. It's really just something to anchor an idea to. You know, just to make it that bit more real, as the way of kind of doing it. Okay. Lunch and happy hour. Okay, some geography. Sorry, thanks for building on the idea of the Guinness World Record for the biggest lunch and learn. The third area that we talked about is inviting input. So this is kind of exactly what we're doing here. We want someone to be able to catch that ball and kind of throw it back to us. So kind of important things here for us. What stands out? So a really good question. If you're sharing an idea with somebody, and maybe they don't naturally build on it, you just delivered your idea and they're like, ask them a question, like proactively invite their input so they feel more ownership. So on World Workbook Day, what stood out? What was the thing that stood out the most? World Book Day, what stood out? Let's think. Helen standing in her garden, perhaps, in the morning. It was quite cold. Topical, that's interesting, Julia. Topical. So pitching an idea at a point in time when it's kind of top of mind. I like that. What else? Recognize that book cover. Okay, so maybe something you can identify with. Moving it from children to everybody. Encourage reading. The scale. Great. So my point here is it's interesting for me to see, but my point is you want people to input into an idea, because as soon as they input into it, they're connecting with it, right? Even if they're critiquing with it, to be honest, even if they're going, I'm not quite sure, you can say, okay, let's talk about that a bit more. What did stand out? And then you can ask them, what might be missing? So let's do that. Let's just try that. With that idea of World Workbook Day, what do you think might be missing? If we were going to explore that idea a bit further, what might be missing? What do you think? Oh, I love that. Fiona, I love that. I am a learner. I mean, I'm not saying we're writing a book on learning, but I might be, and that could be an interesting thing to do for LinkedIn. How to fit it into a work day? Is it about learning or marketing? What might be missing? Make it accessible. People don't love reading. That's interesting. What if I hate reading? Yeah, good point, Tiffany. Is it realistic? What might be missing? The realism. The realism, Helen. Be clear about the aim. Suggest. I was like, who's Caroline? That's so funny. I was thinking, wasn't there someone called Suggs in Madness, a band off of the 90s? I was like, Suggs for books. I mean, that's an interesting suggestions. We'll go with suggestions. Got it. Also available audio. Is it sell the benefits? Books beneficial. Brilliant. Okay. I mean, this is pretty short and sweet, everybody. I guess the main thing that I wanted to kind of talk about in terms of useful to know if you've got any kind of questions on the topic, but I guess the main thing that I wanted to land is that sharing ideas at work is a unique way that we can add our value, and it is really useful to think what might be getting in the way at the moment. When in looking at your comments, my main takeaway was that a lot of us feel vulnerable when we're sharing ideas, so I think having a structure, like not for me personally, I feel like structures help me stay objective and confident because I can rely on a structure. So if confidence is getting in the way of you sharing your ideas, I think just having these three things, thinking, how can I create connection? How can I bring it to life? And how can I invite input? If you have that in your mind, it might give you something to sort of anchor to when you're sharing your idea, rather than feeling like you're super exposed, would be my thing. Okay, so any questions on the topic of ideas? We have a few minutes left. I'm normally very rushed. Today we have space. Any questions at all? Rose, thorn, bud is good for feedback, Corinne. I've never heard of this. One positive thing, a rose, one negative thing, a thorn, and one idea, a bud. I've never heard of that model before. It's very visual. I like it. You're getting lots of hearts on that. Where have you heard that one, Corinne? Who do we need to attribute your rose feedback to? What questions have we got? How do you protect your ideas when you're pitching to a company that you don't work for? That's interesting. How do you protect your ideas? What do you think, everybody? We Sarah and I's perspective, because we're sharing ideas all the time, and we are not that. I think for us, we rely on our sort of ability to generate ideas rather than the ownership of the idea itself. We're always like, oh, people might take our idea. Well, no, people have said to us, but why are you sharing those things? People might take it. And we're like, well, we believe in our ability to generate ideas. So I'm not worried that if I have one idea and someone steals it, I sort of believe in my creativity that I've got more to give, but that's just our perspective. I don't know if anybody else has got any. I used to, back in the innovation days, there was an organisation called Nesta that still exists, but they used to act as sort of like an intermediary between a big company. So at the time it was like Procter & Gamble they were doing a project with, so like a big company, and then an individual who had an idea. So they would take the idea and they were sort of all NDA. So that was depends how big a thing for this is for your job, but having an intermediary for the idea might work. It's quite a formal way of doing it. Any tips for expanding a thought into an idea worth sharing? What I would do, Corinne, and what I do is I personally use LinkedIn a lot for this, or I might use a session like this. So I will often have a random thought about, wonder if we should do this. And I share it on LinkedIn, and I can tell very quickly whether a thought has value. Sometimes my thoughts just go out there and no one gives it a thumbs up, and that's fine. I'm like, okay, it's just a random thought, Helen. And sometimes I will share something and it very quickly connects with people, and that often gives us ideas for podcasts or articles or things like that. So I think whether a thought, what's the difference between a thought and an idea? I don't know, you could ask yourself that. But whether it's an idea that connects, I try to get feedback really fast. And then if it is, I might take that idea a little bit further. That's kind of what I do as well. Any other questions? Sorry, I need to drop. No problem, Caroline. Work on our resilience so we don't get rejected. Yeah. I think that would be my other tip. Don't connect your identity too much to the idea. So if you hold your ideas too tightly, So if I'm like, oh, but that idea is like, it's my idea. It's all about me. If your idea is connected to your identity, I think you're more exposed to people not liking that idea, because it's like, well, you don't like a part of me. If you don't like my idea about World Workbook Day, what does that say about me and my creativity and my brilliance? I think hold your ideas lightly. It does not mean they are valuable or important. It just means that your identity isn't connected to them. And then I think you feel less exposed when you're sharing them. Like, if you don't like my ideas or not, it's just feedback for me. I'm like, okay. There's no point me having lots of ideas if people don't want to do stuff with them. The only other contrary point to that I've heard is that sometimes, I was listening to a podcast last week, that, when you get lots of like no's, or when lots of people go, just that's a bad idea, and they're quite like, oh, that's an awful idea. I did hear from Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, that sometimes when you're getting a lot of no's, it's a signal that you actually might be onto something. Because if people feel really, if lots of people feel very passionate about this is not good, then it's likely that some people it might feel very passionate about it being right. It's like almost counterintuitive that if you've unlocked some passion, there might be something in it. I don't know. Anyway, that's what I heard on the podcast last week. Okay, everyone, we are going to leave it there for now. Hope it's been useful. Hope you can kind of maybe use that structure a little bit to think through some of the ideas that you're sharing, and just be a bit more confident about sharing more ideas at work. We will be back with you next week with another Squiggly episode. If you've got any questions in the meantime, send them my way, Helen and Sarah at squigglycareers.com. Thank you to all the